It's crazy that Nasdaq passed 10,000. Has fallen back below that close of trading today. But you know, when I was at Schwab back in the late 90s, I was on a trading desk, and everything Nasdaq was all the. I mean, it was the cat's meow, man. It was crazy. Nasdaq this, Nasdaq that, tech this, tech that. It was nuts. I mean, we always kind of look and kind of chuckle at pets.com with no earnings. We look and chuckle at the internet fund. But there was a long time there. Those things were moving. Now pets.com, I think it was only literally in existence as a publicly traded company for 8 months or something like that, which is why it's always the go-to as a laughing stock. But a lot of these other firms were just CGMI. Remember, was CMGI, CGMI? I can't remember what that stands for. I traded in and out of that like crazy, selling options on. I mean, I just buying options, selling options. I think it was CGMI. The Qs, the triple Qs. Now it's the 4 Qs for Nasdaq. There's a couple other ones I'm thinking about. Was it Micron Technology? Yeah, I think that's still around though. Anyway, there's some other ones I can't remember what they were. It's interesting. Ted Leonsis, who owns the Capitals and the Bullets, I believe, I did not know this, but he was a bigwig, like a number 2 guy in AOL. And I remember Steve Case was AOL, but I didn't know that Ted Leonsis got his scratch from being an early investor, if not employee in AOL. I had a couple of friends who worked for AOL back in the 90s who just made bank, man. Because AOL is in Northern Virginia, which is where I was living from 92 to 98, I think, 97, 98. And so I had a number of friends that worked at AOL and made bank. It's funny, actually, a couple of these guys, I remember one guy made bank and then he lost it all by buying, I think he like bought this huge house for his wife or something like that. I can't remember, but I think he just bought this huge monstrosity of a home in Northern Virginia someplace for his wife, his recently married wife, who I think, anyway, long story short, she left him. I remember that. I can't remember the whole story. It's a long time ago. I didn't know this guy that well. But I remember it's like, whoa, like he had dated some girl, and I guess was just like totally in love with her, and she wasn't totally in love with him, and so he said, I'll buy this big house and she'll stay with me. And I guess when they bought the house, I don't know what happened. She cheated on him or something like that. And anyway, and then he went broke. You hear that story a lot with, kind of newfound money. It's called sudden wealth. There's a thing called the Sudden Wealth Institute, and I forgot the lady's name who runs it. I've always found that actually kind of interesting, frankly, is that, you get sudden wealth. How do you deal with that? I mean, just think about it. And this is why I take issue with all these people who say, oh, can't believe Latrell Sprewell. You might not remember him, but I do. He was a basketball player who went broke, and I can't believe this guy went broke. I mean, all these young men from, young black guys, there's no father figure. There's just a bunch of scumbags, hangers-on. Basically, it's just this, and they just steal from these guys, man. And, these are young guys. They never had money, and they never had a dad. It's just, they don't know which way. In fact, I'm reading a book right now about the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. And there's a guy who writes about it. He talks about, I don't know, you may or may not remember Teddy Dupay from, I think he went to Florida. It's funny because his dad was like an orthopedic surgeon, right? So his dad wasn't like some poor guy. He wasn't some poor kid from the ghetto. But, he got involved in gambling and just it turned out bad for him. And he was like, he could have been a fantastic NBA superstar for sure. But anyway, so this guy from the CBA who's writing it talks about a lot of these kids, from the urban areas who leave high school to go directly to the NBA draft and don't get drafted. Next thing you know, they're floundering for essentially they don't hardly ever make it to the NBA. Let's talk about one guy named Jackie Butler, and I had never heard this guy, but apparently he was on like the injured reserve when the San Antonio Spurs won in 2007. But apparently this guy was a beast, and he said, but he only played for 19 games his whole career, and I guess he was on almost like the practice squad for the Spurs in 2007 or something like that. But he said basically he should have gone to college. But he listened to some scumbag agents who sold him a bill of goods on not doing that. He could get superstar like Tracy McGrady and LeBron James and Kobe. But those are 3 guys, but the vast majority don't even make it in the NBA because they don't get drafted. Sad, man. And then they go to CBA, they might go to Europe. But if you like CBA, these guys are making like $400 a week, man, and getting a $20 per diem. It's not, that sucks. Anyway, it's an interesting book. Something about the CBA. I forgot what the name of the book is called, but it's interesting nonetheless. All right, so let's go back to Nasdaq. So, you got Nasdaq hit 5,000 at March 10th of 2000. March 10th of 2000 hit like 5,045 or something like that, which was, that was the days when the Dow 30,000 was all the James Glassman had written a book, Dow 30,000, Nasdaq hit 5. And no one wanted at all, no one wanted to touch the 10-foot pole value stocks, especially large cap value stocks. They only wanted growth, i.e. tech stocks. I remember that like it was yesterday. Come on, buddy. And if you did not want growth tech stocks or, saying put all your money into there, no one wanted to talk to you. It was crazy. I remember it was a huge bubble. You're sitting there thinking they got no earnings. No earnings. At some point, this guy can't fly. Anyway, so then it went to 5,000 on March 10th, and then it proceeded to drop to 78% of the Nasdaq to freaking $1,100 at the end of 2002, beginning of 2003. 1,100 from 5,000, and 2 years time, crazy. Well, anyway, then it wasn't. It was just recently, I think 2015, where it finally went over 5,000 again. So that's 15 years time, but now we're at 10,000. It's stunning. And so if you would have, obviously, now this only includes price, it doesn't include dividends. So if you think dividends represent 40%, maybe even say 30% of a market's return, like historically it's about 40%, you'd have to add those dividends on top of it. It's just price point to point price. But still, the Nasdaq is up 9 times from 2002. 9. Come on, buddy. 9 times. We'll just use 10 times for simplicity, for simplicity. So basically, if you had purchased Nasdaq in 2002 when it's low, you would have 9 to 10 times your money over 18 years. It's insane. Now, I will grant you, if you would have purchased Nasdaq on January 1, 2000, you would have doubled your money over 20 years. That's not a very good rate of return. Again, sans dividends here. But still, it just shows you the power of just staying invested for the long haul, not buying fly-by-night stocks, but find something that is diversified that you can hang on to through thick and thin, because, man, if you can hang in there and you got a diversified portfolio of stocks, you just went through 3 of the biggest downturns we've ever seen in American investing history. 2000 to 2002, 243 days of from top to bottom. 2007 to 2009, another 145 days of top to bottom. Then, of course, the economy virus thing is only, 28 days from top to bottom. But still, if you can hang in there, man, you can do just fine, as long as capitalism is allowed to be capitalistic. Once the Bolsheviks take over, all bets are off. So you've got to stay invested. And you can't be silent. I'm going to do another video where I say silence equals compliance. And I refuse to be in compliance with the freaking Bolsheviks, because our country is at stake by these guys. I don't care how they, quote, cover themselves in what kind of justice. Bolsheviks and communism is communism. And we've got to beat these guys back, because the barbarians are at the gates, my friends, and silence is compliance, and I won't comply. All right, we'll see you.